Oh, the State Street River was famous in Philadelphia, in Kansas, and all over America, including Indiana, too. What river on State Street, you ask? Well, this is State Street today, and this was State Street 38 years ago. Yeah, a bit different. People talk about the flood of 1983 pretty much every spring when the snow melts. You see, we had record amounts of snow in the winter of 82-83, try 700 inches at Parley Summit versus a norm of about 300 inches, and a really cold May. That is until the last week of May when it hit 90 degrees. At first they thought they could hold it all at Mountain Dell in Parley's Canyon. It didn't work. The water came. Manholes became geysers. Water came down 13th South out of Parley's Canyon. It gushed through Memory Grove, tearing out a new channel. Things didn't look too good. People had about a day to save the town, and it all amounted to an equivalent of an old barn raising. Thousands turned out to sandbag the city. For the first time, even churches were canceled on May 29th. It was no picnic on the holiday weekend. 1 million sandbags, yes, 1 million sandbags were stuffed with sand. Plastic riverbeds made a new roaring river. There was a human chain. Sandbags went from the big sand pile down the street and into the river.
Well, by about the second day, we knew this was a big deal. Why? Because they were already selling t-shirts. I am a Salt Lake City sandbagger and the spirit of 83.
And of course, the souvenir of the decade, water from the flood. Oh, it had a warning, do not drink. Now, what's wrong with drinking opaque, dirty flood water from City Creek that was turning the city into a creek? The masses and sandbags had moved on to State Street. People worked day and night and made a new river, the State Street River. The new river would run from Memory Grove all the way to about Dirk's Field. It was quite a river. It even had rapids. People had a sense of humor about it all. One claimed to have caught a fish in it. Well, there is the guy and the fish. We don't know if fishing without a license on State Street is as bad as driving without a license on State Street. But it wasn't just a river. In one day, bridges were built over the mighty State Street River. Some for cars, some for people. And like any good river, it became a destination tourist site.
Come back. Grandparents and parents just love to tell kids how tough winters used to be back when they had to walk to school. One of those epic snowstorms was 26 years ago today when Utahns spent the day digging out of the snow. That's if the big storm of 1993 didn't destroy their house. Yes, it actually flattened some homes.
There are some nice 20-year-old trees at the state capitol. And a few of us might remember that they were planted to replace almost 100 giant pines and other trees that stood here for almost 90 years. You see, 21 years ago this week, we had the big tornado.
Those who were here before might remember there was a forest up here at the Capitol, but in 9 minutes, 90 trees were destroyed.
It's still hard to believe. So we relive it now. It was big news in Canada and in Los Angeles, as well as in places that know something about tornadoes, such as in the heart of Kansas, and places that know what wind can do, and a Michigan paper that said this was unusual but not impossible. A crane toppled at the LDS Conference Center that was under construction.
20 years ago today, on August 11th, 1999, a tornado ripped through downtown Salt Lake City. And previous to that, many people thought that tornadoes simply don't happen here in Utah.
But of course they do. In the aftermath, former Fox 13 meteorologist Steve Barron broke down the science behind the storm. Steve still works for the Fox 13 parent company. Here's a look back at his special report, The Secrets of the Storm.
Secret number one is an amazing fact that you'd never even guess could be true. Looking at this time lapse of the tornado, it appears that the funnel cloud drops out of the base of the storm as it passes over the city. But in slow motion, you can see what's really going on. This tornado did something few storms of its power do. It started on the ground, look right here, and then reached up into the cloud. The second secret of the storm is how it hid from hundreds of thousands of watts of Doppler radar power, scanning the skies over Salt Lake City. The answer comes from the heart of tornado country, Norman, Oklahoma. Here in Tornado Alley, researcher Don Burgess is poring over data from the storm.
Well, this storm developed very quickly. At 12 noon, there was no storm. At 12:15, the storm started. At 12:30, was the first sign of rotation, and at 12:40 the tornado began. So this was very rapid development.
Which brings us to secret number three. You might call this the secret radar. On the shores of the Great Salt Lake, the Federal Aviation Administration just finished building this terminal Doppler weather radar. It's designed to detect wind and rain in the lowest levels of the atmosphere, and it picked up the Salt Lake tornado as it formed in much more detail than the radar the National Weather Service used the day of the storm. The fourth and final secret of the storm is by far the most perplexing. In a state where 80% of the land is either a forest, a park, or a bombing range, why did the storm end up in the middle of the Mountain West's largest city, cutting a path right through downtown, up a canyon, and into the mountains? In years of watching Utah's weather, meteorologist Bill Alder's never seen anything like it.
Why it was so intense, it's hard to say why it was so strong, because that is just not like any event I've ever seen around here.
Turn now to the other big story of the night. An entire eastern Nevada town devastated by dangerous floodwaters here. Highways washed away, with roads leading in and out of the town of Montello ruined. News specialist Nicole Val's been on the ground there since last night, and tonight she brings us up close to the damage.
Today, the floodwaters rising so high, our crews forced to evacuate. This is the problem right here. Floodwaters continuing to rush in, meaning right now for the people of Montello, there's no way out.
When you think of smog, Los Angeles or Phoenix probably comes to mind. But right now, the worst air in the country is actually hovering over Salt Lake City, Utah. And Ben Tracy shows us why. It could mean some big changes.
A city known for its clear skies and white-capped mountains is now choking on a heavy blanket of smog. The Environmental Protection Agency says this month, Salt Lake City has the worst air quality in the country.
There are more than 80 active wildfires currently burning across the United States. The fires have forced nearly 8,000 people from their homes. Dry weather and record high temperatures across much of the West are being blamed for the fires, and firefighters point out it's still early in the summer fire season.
Much of the West is, as we mentioned, sweltering as a summer heat wave brings record-breaking temperatures. It's also fueling dozens of wildfires. Danya.
Time now for the KSL In-Depth.
The July heat wave. In-depth coverage on KSL News Radio. Day 2.
The saying goes, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. But when it's 105 out there, the kitchen might be a nice, cool place to spend the afternoon. The National Weather Service is working on a new online tool that can help you pinpoint the places where heat poses a real risk to your health.
Temperatures are dropping, and Rocky Mountain Power and UDOT are preparing now to keep you safe ahead of the storm.
Around here, they're still worried about
freaking earthquake.
Earthquake back and forth about and telling us
we're in the middle of an earthquake, Tony.
This is a lot for them to really handle. Again, this is impacting 1,000. Oh, are you guys okay?
Oh my gosh.
Are you guys okay?
We are. Oh my gosh. We're hanging on. We are rocking.
Yeah, are you guys under the desk?
Cow.
We've got a big-time earthquake here right now.
This is big.
Yeah. Scary. Our studio here.
I just want to make sure you guys are safe. Are you guys under the table?
We're on the bottom floor of a 26-story building in downtown Salt Lake City. Looking around right now to see how things are outside.
We got people outside kind of running around. What is going on? I have no idea how big of a quake this was, but it was really rocking and
Jade,
rolling
are you
here.
hearing anything?
Good morning, Utah. If you're waking up this morning, you probably felt what we all did here today. There's been a massive earthquake in the Wasatch Front. Now, we felt it here at the station in Salt Lake City, and we're just getting reports as we're calling some of our loved ones here this morning to find out where they felt it too.
We are following breaking news that happened just minutes ago out of Utah. A 5.7 magnitude earthquake hit about 10 miles outside of Salt Lake City.
Yeah. I'm going to go to Nicole Newman now. She's actually in downtown Salt Lake City. We understand there's some damage to the Salt Lake Temple there. Nicole, can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you, Sarah. Well, you can see the damage for yourself that was caused to the temple. The trumpet on the Angel Moroni has fallen off. It actually appears that the trumpet itself has fallen to the ledge right underneath it. I'm not sure if you guys can see that there. People have been stopping by all morning to take pictures of it and just to witness it itself. A church spokesperson saying some smaller stones have also fallen off the temple. Now, there is some construction that's going on here. The church says no workers were hurt.
2020, I just say, this has been a bad fire season here in Utah. It's bad all over the West.
Record-breaking numbers this fire season.
With potential winds that strong, weather experts say that now is the time to secure your outdoor belongings before the storm comes in.
All right, so we're talking about all this damage up and down the Wasatch Front, and we've got our reporters all up and down, and we've seen everybody, all of the reporters who are out there, just about getting blown over by these wind gusts. You can have one moment, you can be in a lull where it looks like it's just a beautiful and tranquil day, and then all of a sudden these gusts come up and they about knock you down.
All right, let's go out to Adam right now. I'm not even sure where Adam is this morning.
But he'll tell us.
But he's getting blown around. We can see that. Adam, good morning.
Yeah, Dan Carey, we're on Legacy Parkway right now. I'm holding onto the railing because I'm not going to lie, it is miserable out here. My lips are dry. We got dirt blowing into our mouths. We got the semi-truck on its side right over there. You can tell cars finally allowed through here on Legacy Parkway for the first time in a little while.
So how are we doing when it comes to our air? Did the pandemic have an impact? We're learning more this morning from the American Lung Association.
We're going to check in with Will Barrett. He is joining us live via Zoom. Will, welcome. We want to know what some of your findings have been, especially when it comes here in Utah. We know our air hasn't been the greatest.
That's right. Well, thanks for having me on. And today the Lung Association released our 22nd annual State of the Air report, really to highlight local air pollution and air conditions, progress, and challenges across the country. And you're right, in Utah and Salt Lake City, we are seeing significant impacts due to ozone pollution in particular.
Nearly one half of the country, from the Pacific Coast to the Great Plains and the upper Midwest, is experiencing moderate to exceptional drought conditions. It's expected to get worse through the summer. But as William Brangham reports, it's the western states in particular that are taking the hardest hit.
From wildfire warnings to watering restrictions, we've heard a lot of warnings about the exceptional and extreme drought in Utah.
And every few minutes, dozens of monitoring stations measure streams and rivers to tell us what conditions are right now. Fox 13's Max Roth shows us.
Utah's waterways are drier than they've been in the last 2 decades for this time of year, in which they should be flowing at their peak.
That's what I realized looking at the data the U.S. Geological Survey puts out all day, every day. The red dots on this map of Utah show water is low. We'll zoom in on 3 significant places, starting with the Green River at the town of Green River.
The drought in the U.S. West is getting more severe and spreading northward into the agricultural regions of the Dakotas and beyond. Electricity in several western states are at risk too, as levels retreat in Lakes Meade and Powell. They generate huge amounts of hydropower. If we have less electricity in the summer months, prices may rise. Coupled with the dry conditions, any heat wave in California or the U.S. West has the potential to create large and devastating fires. Look for a volatile summer.